Hi, smart moms and dads. I'm Dr. Amy, and this is the Brainy Moms Podcast. I am super excited to welcome back my guest, Leah Remillet. Leah is the host of the Balancing Busy podcast. She's an international speaker and a balance strategist. She helps women do less, but better. Simply put, if you're a woman with a mission but worried that your growing dreams means failing at home, then Leah can show you how to spread the message, make an incredible income, and do it all in less time. And by the way, she looks amazing in yellow. Welcome back for the third time, Leah.
Thank you. I love every time I'm with you. I always have so much fun. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have so much energy and it's contagious. And I love it too. So, yeah, I was looking at your website recently and I thought, who looks good in yellow? Very few people look good in yellow. And typically, you have to have dark skin and dark hair, for yellow to really pop. I look like I'm, 4 days into the flu if I try to wear yellow. In fact, I don't own anything yellow. But you look amazing in yellow. And I just wanted to give you props for that in your intro.
That is so sweet of you because okay, full confession, I don't think I look good in yellow either. But I when I was thinking about my brand, I wanted to convey that I'm like, okay, I'm professional, but like with spunk. Okay. Like there's like this spunky, like very energetic side of me. And so I chose chartreuse to be one of my colors, which is like, I mean, it's like neon yellow lime-ish, right?
Yeah.
And no, I don't think it actually looks good on me either. I wear extra blush and extra lipstick when I wear it to try to offset, but like the color does make me very happy. I'm very drawn to it. And so there you go.
Yeah. And I think that as women, when we feel comfortable in our own skin, which includes our wardrobe at times, it brings out our energy and our, sassiness and our pep. And so when I turned 50, I got rid of all of my heels and replaced them with Converse. So I own 41 pairs of Converse,
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
all different colors, all different styles. And I speak in my Converse. I mean, I'm on stage in my Converse because what I would do is I would wear flats or flip flops and then throw my heels on right before I would go on stage and then take my heels off right when I left the stage. And I felt like, why am I, no woman should have to suffer for beauty. Really, come on. And I feel like my hot pink Converse represent who I am much better than the black heels ever did.
Yes. I will make a confession. I have times where I have, had the really big stilettos walking on the stage, and I literally kicked him off while on stage and was like, we're just going to get more comfortable. So
That's that personality at its best.
I am seeing the wisdom to your plan.
Yeah, I'm so glad I did it.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. Okay, well, the last two times you were here, we spent our entire episodes just talking about the plight of the working mom and how it's just that constant wrestling with, okay, if I don't give 110% to my career, then I'm a failure at work. And if I don't give 110% to my kids at home, then I'm a failure as a mom. And so where do we find, I hate the word balance. It's so hard to achieve. And I think it sets up an expectation that we should be able to achieve it. But there has to be some sort of, I don't know, how do you, what terminology do you use to represent balance? Or you actually use the word balance, right?
I was gonna say I do use balance, but I think that we have to get very different about how we define what balance is. Because balance is certainly not equal parts to everything. That would be ridiculous. I mean, you're not going to spend 8 hours on working out and 8 hours on quality time with your spouse and 8 hours with your kids and 8 hours at work. I mean, that's impossible. So to me, it's about being present in each of those areas, each of your primary areas that are the things that matter to you, that we each have these areas where we're like, I need to show up as my best self here. I will have regrets if I don't. And so I look at those different areas and I say, okay, well then what would that look like? How can I show up as my best self? And I want to just be clear, my best self is different from day to day. Okay, so my best self on Friday might be gung ho and killing it. And my best self on Monday could be barely getting along, but she's still there, right? So even that, we have to give ourselves grace. And so to me, balance is a balance of giving grace, of pushing when we need to push, but also pulling back when we need to pull back. It's being able to look at the different areas of our life and say when we should push forward, but also when we should pause. It's being able to say, I want to show up as my best self, but am I being fair in what best self is? Does it really have to be homemade sourdough bread and homemade cupcakes at the bake sale, right? Could it be a different version? So to me, balance is getting very true to what actually matters to each of us individually, not what we're being told matters, not what our feeds are representing or what's trendy is representing. It's what actually matters to us and then being unapologetic about that and then setting those boundaries so that we really can show up and feel good in the areas of our life that truly matter to us.
Yeah, I love that. I talk a lot about when we make parenting decisions, they need to be aligned with what we value for families or what we value for our family. And when we make a parenting decision that is misaligned with those values, then we suffer cognitive dissonance, right? We think there isn't something right about what's happening right now that does not fit with what I think family life should look like or what I want for my children. But we have to clearly define those values before we can move towards them in our decisions. So we can apply that same idea, to momming and womaning. And sure, just one of those words.
So every single one of us was like, yes.
Yeah, that what is it that we actually value about having a career? What is it that we actually value about being a working mom? Because I think then that puts things in perspective and it's our roadmap.
Yes. Even taking that to parenting. What is it about family time that I value versus maybe what constructs am I putting on different activities because I think they should look a certain way? For me, dinner at different seasons, depending. I mean, that's the other thing is everything is going to always be evolving and shifting and moving. And we have to be completely okay with that or we're going to get out of bounds. The same way, if I'm riding a bike and I refuse to turn, I'm going to eventually run into something. It's going to be painful, right? We're always shifting our weight, going faster and then slowing down, hitting the brakes and then speeding up. Sometimes you get to have that beautiful moment on a bike where you don't have to pedal and you just get to coast, right? It's this fluid, constantly shifting thing. And that's actually what balance is. And so just thinking about, for me, family dinner is very important as part of my values around family time, that we have dinner as a family. I checked in with myself once long, long ago and was like, okay, the priority is family dinner, but am I adding parts to this that don't need to be there? And I was overcomplicating it so much because I needed to make the whole dinner from scratch and it needed to come with like a pan sauce and some like garnish and just be stunning and beautiful and everything's set. And I realized this is ridiculous. It does not need to look like this. I don't know where that even came from, but somewhere I had taken on this idea that it had to look a certain way. Or bringing treats to my kids' classes when they were little. I felt like I was supposed to make things. I also happen to be terrible at baking. So there was like a serious problem. Okay. I'm not good at baking. I don't have the time because I don't have the time, but also because I'm probably going to have to try 2 or 3 times because I'm not good at it to begin with. But I also had this really big struggle with, oh, but I don't want to buy store bought. Like it just makes me feel bad. And like I'm not doing enough. And I found my own compromise. And this would not be everybody's situation. But for me, I just decided I am going to like the most expensive bakery in our area and I am buying the most gorgeous desserts that are already made. And then I bring those and I feel great and I didn't have to make that. And the trade off worked perfectly for me. So there's whether we're talking about our career or we're just talking about mommy, we have to check in and say, what stories am I telling myself? And do I actually agree with them? And sometimes all of a sudden you catch yourself realizing, no, I totally don't. This is not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that what are we modeling for our own kids when we set a standard that's unrealistic too, right? When we are killing ourselves to live up to this unrealistic expectation that we've created, right? Like this is not somebody putting this on us, right? I mean, it could be a message from our own childhood, right? Like, did our own mom's mom like that?
Yeah.
But what are we modeling for our own kids? And so, we inadvertently say this is our expectation for what family life should look like when we're trying to live up to perfectionistic, ideals. And then our kids grow up and think that they have to be that way because that's what we modeled, even though it was killing us to do it.
Yes. So I had my 19-year-old daughter on my podcast a couple of months ago. And I wanted her to talk very openly. Like before we sat down, she was home from college for the summer. And I was like, I want you to truly share what you think I did wrong. And we can talk about what I did right too. But I want you to just share, like, you have had a working mom your whole life. And I tried to hide it for a long part of their life. Like I didn't want them to feel it. And I was like, I want you to say, like, where should you see the gaps and all these things. And it was so amazing getting to have this recorded and have this moment with her. But one of the things that shocked me the most that I did not expect is she said, you showed me that we can't do everything. And I have to be honest, I was thinking, I was trying to show you what I was doing. I didn't think we'll see. Look, I was doing everything. I was so grateful because I look at my girls who are both now young adults, right? They're both in college. Their next step is going to be starting their own life, finding their person, marriage, family, these things. And I do not want my girls to think that they have to do everything. I really do believe that I think we can be everything. And when I say everything, I don't mean everything. I mean the things that matter to us. But we can't do it all. You just can't. So you have to figure out what you're going to let people help you with, what you're going to let go of, where there might be expectations you wish you could uphold, but you're just going to be like, you know what? The house is messy, or the thing is store bought, or everybody has to help with the chores. I don't know why I had the idea for so long that as a really good mom, I should be doing all the things for everyone. Like it wasn't as good of a mom if they came home from school and sports and I was like, and you got to do your laundry and I'm going to need you to help with whatever else. And I'm so glad that I untangled that because, and it was hard. I mean, when I first started saying each of you cook one night a week, you all do your own laundry and really giving them more responsibilities, I felt like a bad mom. I did. I felt like if I didn't work, I would be able to be more available and I would be able to do these things for them, but I needed them. And yet when her and I were having our conversation, one of the things that she said she was most grateful for was the confidence she has in all of these tasks that she knows how to do so well because in her mind, because you were teaching me how to be resilient. And in my mind, in the early, because I was drowning and I couldn't do it all. And so, yeah, there's something just so beautiful about us, again, coming back to what you were sharing, figuring out what truly matters, and then working on a plan that actually works for us and our values and our goals and our family.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I share this a lot, but I struggle with multiple chronic illnesses. And so I have a limited amount of energy it's this much energy and it needs to go this far every day. And unfortunately, I'm a classic overachiever. So that is not a great combination, right? Not a great combination when, you do struggle with your health, but you still want to accomplish all of this. I'm a 3 on the Enneagram. I was talking about how I have limited energy. And so my husband had to do a lot of the cooking and a lot of the housework. And my boys, I have 3 boys, my boys saw him having all of those responsibilities the whole time they were growing up because I just I had a limited capacity because I'm a classic overachiever. Because I'm a classic overachiever, I have always worked and worked a lot. So all of my energy was going in that direction. And then there was nothing left physically for me to cook at the end of the day most days. I could cook on weekends, and there was no energy for me to clean the house. So we either had housekeepers or my husband would take care of that. And so I felt really guilty when my kids were younger, right? That I didn't have the energy to do a lot of that, that I felt really guilty because my husband was having to pick up all of my slack. But what I see now in my three young adult men children, right? They're 20, 24, and 26, is that all three of them do the majority of cooking in their relationships, that they are great caregivers in their relationships, that they believe that distribution of labor is not based on sex or gender, right? It's based on who has the capacity. And I just love that my husband modeled that, right? That they saw that and it was beautiful.
As you're saying that, I don't think there is a single mom listening who isn't like, I want my boys to know that. I want my girls to know that they don't need to go in to the next chapter of their life believing that that discrepancy is just the way it has to be. And it should be radical generosity on both sides and who has the capacity. And so, I mean, that's so beautiful. And again, it's that same thing. Both of us are sharing moments where we honestly felt guilty. We felt bad. We felt like maybe we weren't giving enough and setting the right example. And yet, only in retrospect, only in that we both have our kids that are now in their 20s, we can look back and say, I am so grateful that that was modeled. I am so grateful for the lessons that learned that you maybe would have stopped from happening if you had the energy and felt better. I would have stopped from happening if I didn't run a company and had to let others help because I just couldn't do it all.
Yeah. Great lessons, right? I mean,
Yes. And I like that we can share that and others can hear, right? Maybe if they're a little earlier in the process than us. Maybe if their kids are a little bit younger, whether it's teenagers, we can still make up time as teenagers, or they're much younger. Recognizing that letting people help us, because that's its own thing that we as women are often not great about, right? Letting others help us, whether it's our husband, whether it's family and friends, it's our kids, it's a combination of everybody. That actually is a huge part of how we're going to feel more balanced. You can't feel balanced if you can't ever get off the treadmill. You
yeah.
have to be allowed to get off the treadmill from time to time, or there's no way to ever. I mean, I don't know about you. I hate treadmills because you know how you like if I'm at a hotel or something, I might choose the treadmill and you get on the treadmill and then when you get off, you feel so weird. You're like trying to walk to like what
Yeah.
is happening? Why does the floor feel like this? That can be our lives. And we don't want to live the same day over and over again and call it a life if it's essentially the treadmill that we just can't get off of. There's, I mean, going back to if running is your form, there's a lot of different ways to run. It can be the treadmill, but there's something beautiful about getting outside and running, getting to run on a beach, getting to run, through a park. And if we keep believing these stories that we have to do everything, we need to figure out how it's all going to work. We are the ones who come up with the answers, execute the answers, all the things. We're not only hurting ourselves, but we're going to actually hurt our kids' future relationships too, which is
Yeah.
brutal. It hurts to hear, but it also can give us some power when we realize, okay, so then maybe me being intentional about scheduling in rest, about scheduling in outsourcing, whether that's a house cleaner or grocery delivery or employees or the kids or the husband or the neighbor or whatever it looks like for each of us, that we're actually doing not only a service for ourselves, but we're actually helping our kids and their futures as well.
Absolutely. And I love your promotion of outsourcing. I would have conversations with Jeff because he thought he could do it all too, right? Military colonel, worked 15 hours a day, right? And then felt like he could come home and do it all. And so I would say things like, "Hey, I've noticed some spiders in the basement. And so I think that that exterior of the house needs to be treated for spiders. Do you want to do that or do you want me to call an exterminator?" Because if I just said, "Hey, we need to treat the outside of the house because there are spiders in the basement that terrify our middle child," he'd say, "Okay, I'll do it." And then it becomes a nagging situation, right? Where, "Hey, we really need that spider killer. We really need that spider killer," right? For weeks. And so I learned to just offer the choice, right? Can you do this or should I outsource it?
I love that. So, okay, so this is fascinating because this comes to each personality. So, my husband grew up in a very frugal family. And so it can be very hard for him to feel like we're not being indulgent if we pay for some things. So and he's got so much more comfortable over the years, but especially early on when we first started talking about having a house cleaner. I mean, we both are so busy and our kids were still really little. And who is going to do this? And I kept trying to broach, I really think that getting a house cleaner would it would make such a difference. I can't explain how much better I would feel. But he kept feeling like, oh, that feels so whatever, right? Just too much.
Sure.
And so this conversation kept circling back. And I finally decided to come to him. I'll give two different examples. I came to him and I was like, okay, this doesn't need to be permanent, but I want us to give it a try. So I want to find a house cleaner. I want to try it for 1 month and I want to see how it goes. If we notice like, oh my gosh, things feel so much better, we'll keep it. If we don't, then we'll go back to how it was. And I just had a real heart to heart and was like, I need this. I need you to let us try this. I think I'm going to feel so much better. I'm going to have more energy at the end of the day. And I think you will
Mhm.
really enjoy that energy.
Exactly.
So there was another time where we needed a retaining wall and he was planning to do it. And he was planning to pull us all in. We were all going to help build this retaining wall. And I was thinking, like, this is going to be horrible. Like, this is going to be a nightmare. And one day I just came to him and I said, what would you pay to not have to make the retaining wall? He's like, oh my gosh, I would easily pay. And he gave a number. Great. I'm going to get back to you. So I called around and I was like, hey, we can have the retaining wall made for and less than you are willing to pay. So that was a way for us to be able to kind of broach our being able to outsource things when I was a little bit more free willing to outsource and he was a little more hesitant.
Yeah, I like that. My husband grew up very frugal also and, didn't have a lot of money growing up. And so doesn't like to spend money on anything except his toys. And so I have to throw that in there because he will spend money on his toys.
Oh, you see me actively nodding.
Listing is actively nodding right now, right? Like, bet your husband will spend money on his toys, but not on your birthday. Okay, then. Which I have a solution for that. We can come back to the birthday solution. But anyway, yeah. And so he was exactly the same way when I wanted housekeepers. I was pregnant with our youngest, working full time, and just couldn't get to it. I just didn't have the energy. And so he said, yeah, sure, that would be fine. And so we did have, housekeepers for 24-ish years. And so a couple of years ago, he said, really think that, we need to spend the money on housekeepers. We only have one kid left in the house. And I said, well, I can't do it. Like, I physically don't have the capacity with my health issues to clean the house. He's like, it's fine. I will do it. And so it is now that kind of situation where I'll say, I'm not really liking the floors right now. Right. But you can't nag. But I mean, so I don't know. I think that we all hit a crossroads too, where, hey, just because we've always done it this way doesn't mean it's going to work that way forever, right? I only work part time now. Things have changed, but it's still the daily plight of, do we just do it ourselves? Do we just call the house? Oh, I know that this was my point. So I decide to call housekeepers, right? Haven't had them in 2 years, but my floors just don't look great. My bathrooms just don't look great. So I call $750.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That is what they quoted me for my square footage and the number of bedrooms. And I was like, that's a little bit more than I was hoping to pay. So I'm just going to keep nagging my husband.
This is so funny because we have the same thing. We have had house cleaners for decades. We are down to one child. And my husband kind of mentioned it, but I also was like, yeah, I mean, the house stays so clean now. Like the house stays so clean in between her coming that it's like she comes again. It's like, it still looks fantastic because it's not the chaos that there used to be. So I ended up agreeing what I really wanted to do was go down to like once a month, but that wasn't available. So I'm like, okay, I understand, and so we stopped for a while. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to just try to get some other quotes because exactly what you're feeling like, but I loved that feeling when the whole house was clean at the exact same time. Like solid perfect. And so I started calling around and the exact same thing. I mean, it was 3, 4 times what it had been. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, what have we done?
Yeah. Like it's this post COVID, price increase that I, I expected it to be a little bit more than when it was pre COVID. And I don't remember what we were paying, but maybe 200 or 300, but not 750. I mean, I had to ask him how much, right? Like, because I thought for sure I misheard.
Right, right. Oh, yes. I mean, that could bring us into a whole nother conversation because that is a hard part about I am such a fan of outsourcing. I do understand that outsourcing can be expensive and that for all of us, we either have more of time or we have more money. And sometimes we're in the very unfortunate situation where we don't have enough time and we don't have enough money. And so it gets very hard and you have to start getting really creative on how you're going to divvy things up, how you're going to get help, and what this is going to look like. And I think both you and I can probably look back. Like there were times when we had to be really creative when our kids were really little. My husband was still in graduate school. We're, trying to figure out, well, how do we have date night when we can't figure out a babysitter? And we came up with like a date night group where one Friday night we had 5 million children at our house and it was horrible. Right. But then we got to go out and someone else had to endure the circus at their house.
Yeah.
I mean, there were just different things that we did. And so you're always looking at, there's going to be times in each of our lives where we have more time. So then we're going to have to, we're going to do it ourselves. We're going to figure out how to do these things. There's going to be other times where we are fortunate enough to have more money and then we can buy time with our money, which is so beautiful. But yes, when things like this happen and everything is just going up in the prices, you're like, I cannot justify this. This seems crazy. And
Yeah.
you have to get new creative ideas that like, well, I guess I'll just keep asking my husband. I don't know.
Right. Exactly. Well, and I think like if I used the Roomba more often, then the floors would look better.
Mhm.
Oh, and I bought a new steam mop, which is incredible, by the way. If you don't own a steam mop, I highly recommend it.
Do you have the one that like vacuums and steam mops at the same time?
No, it just steams it.
Okay, so I
How does it suck it up and throw water on the floor at the same time?
It is amazing. It is one of my favorites. So I'm with you on this. But those are hard too because they're expensive also, right? Like buying a Roomba, I took forever to buy my first one. And I bought it actually off of like I think it was back when we still used Craigslist. I don't think we use that anymore. I think it's like only for murderers or something. But that was like, here I bought my first one. And then, over the years I've upgraded. But I agree. Those kind of things can be huge things that help. And yes, it's an upfront, pretty big investment. But yeah, my Roomba, we have two. We have one upstairs, one downstairs. They're called Fred and George. And Fred is, vacuums every morning, the entire downstairs, and George mops upstairs. And then I have this that I got on Amazon, this vacuum mop. So like it's vacuuming up all the woods and mopping at the same time. So that's beautiful because it saves me so much time when I need to pull it out. I don't have to sweep first and then go mop, right? Like it's simultaneously having. So that's true. Like those kind of gadgets can make a huge difference.
Yeah. Okay. So you did a podcast where you gave 10 simple tweaks when you don't have enough time. And so I just want to throw each one of these at you and have you speak for a couple minutes on each. Ready? Okay. You don't have enough time. Try these 10 simple tweaks. All right. Number one, limit TV time.
Okay, so I am not going to try to say, oh, you shouldn't watch TV, you shouldn't scroll at all. I get it. This is a way that we all numb or whatever. But what if we just look very honestly at how much time we're spending and see if we can cut some stuff back, especially if it does not make you feel good. You can honestly say, I get off of that scroll session or that particular show and I actually feel kind of heavy or bad. What if we eliminate that? And I'm not going to not mention the power of a timer. If you're going to get on social media, but set a timer on your phone for 30 minutes so that it stops you and choose one show instead of like, I'm going to watch 5.
Okay. So that was 1 and 2. Limit TV time and limit social media scroll.
Okay, well, perfect. Yes.
Yeah.
I think of those things as so connected, right? And the average person is watching 2 to 4 hours of TV a day. That's not including how much time they're on their phones, whether that is YouTube or social media channels or whatever. I mean, it is an insane amount of time. And we can't keep pretending that it's not affecting our relationships, that it's not affecting our mental health, that it's not affecting a whole lot of things. I just don't believe we were meant to be staring at things this long. So just figuring out how we can cut that back and then use that time for something better. And better could be sleep, better could be date night, better could be a game with your family, better could be, taking time to really work on a project that you keep putting off. So whatever better is for each of us, but just choosing to cut back a little bit of that. I mean, if you're watching 4 hours and you even cut it down to 2, you get 2 more hours of sleep, you're going to feel a lot better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love that perspective that, we're always saying, well, I don't have time to do that. I don't have time to do that. But if we're averaging, 2 hours on TV and 2 hours on social media, we actually do have time to do some of those things that we don't think we do if we cut back.
I hate, okay, total honest, not popular opinion. I hate the saying I don't have time. I loathe it because it is not true. It is never true. We make time for what matters. And so when we're saying I don't have time, if you are caught up on your favorite shows, then okay, this is about priorities. And so honest, so often, honestly, it's actually not that we don't have time. We don't have energy. The reason that we watch shows at the end of the day or we scroll is because we're tired, we're worn out. So we don't have the energy to get into organizing the kitchen or a big work project or anything else. But maybe we could still spend that time a little better by reading a physical book or, relaxing with our spouse out on the deck or, just other things that are going to do a lot more for us.
Absolutely. Okay, I need to read a word from our sponsor and then we'll come back to the list. All right. Are you concerned about your child's reading or spelling performance? Are you worried your child's reading curriculum isn't thorough enough? Well, at Learning RX, we recognize that most learning struggles aren't the result of poor curriculum or instruction. Instead, learning struggles are typically caused by having cognitive skills that need to be strengthened. Skills like auditory processing, visual processing, memory, and processing speed. Learning RX one-on-one cognitive training programs are designed to target and strengthen the skills that we rely on for reading, spelling, writing, and learning. With experience training more than 130,000 children and adults already, we'd like to help you get your child on the path to a brighter and more confident future. Give Learning RX a call at 866-BRAIN01 or visit learningrx.com. All right, we are back. Let's go to number 3. All right, wake up just a little earlier.
If our kids are at our alarm clock, we're not going to feel so great. You wake up feeling behind when they're tugging on you saying, Mom, I'm hungry. Mom, I'm this. So just waking up a little bit earlier. I'm a huge morning person, but I understand that's not everybody. So work with your personality, with what works for you, but just giving yourself a little bit of time where you get to feel like you're ahead of the game. I feel incredible when before I even would wake up the kids, I had already read my scriptures, said my prayers, done my workout, gotten dressed. I'm like, I am amazing. That's incredible. I was just truly, if you feel like, man, I don't ever feel good waking up. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but try waking up earlier and giving yourself just a little time that is for you. And I mean, if you want more time, you can literally create more time just for yourself by waking up a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I like that. And I am not a morning person. And so I'm sure half of our listeners are thinking, there's no way I could do all that before my kids get it right. Exactly. But what I did is I would get up an hour earlier than my kids so that I could just have coffee in the sitting room, watching the sunrise over the mountains or against the mountains, really, but watching the sunrise because that brings me joy. That was life giving to be alone in the silence with my coffee. And so it was me time that really made me feel like I had more energy because I didn't start the day in chaos.
Yes. When my kids were really little, I had a very bad habit of staying up very, very late. I think we've actually talked about this like when I've been on before, but to the point where I was staying up till 4, 5, 6 in the morning. And then, of course, I was woken up by my kids. So when I was shifting and trying to get better sleep and start to try to wake up a little bit earlier, it was brutally painful. And so I started in 15-minute increments. I would literally be like, okay, I'm going to start trying to wake up 15 minutes before the kids. And so in 15 minutes, what could I do? And it was really small things. And then after I got comfortable with that, I was like, okay, now I'm going to do 15 more. Now I have 30 minutes. What would I want to do with 30 minutes? And then honestly, I just started loving it so much like that. Those early hours where nobody is bothering you, it just kept getting earlier and earlier because I just wanted more time. I craved it. So yes, for those who are like, I am not a morning person. That sounds terrible. Start really small. Start with 15 minutes, then add another 15. It's amazing what could happen with just 30 minutes before everybody's waking up, just to get a little head start.
Yeah, love that. All right. Number 4, bash baby batch. What does that mean?
Okay, batching is my absolute favorite productivity time management hack. Like if I was going through all of the different strategies, and I have, they're all on my podcast, I would say batching is my favorite. So essentially what we're talking about is do like tasks together. Don't start on something, then walk away and then go work on something else. So this can look like all kinds of different things. In the business world, it might look like I'm scheduling a bunch of podcast interviews all on the same day and I'm bashing them all on one day, or all of my meetings are on one day, or I'm going to work on social media content in an hour block and try to see how much I can get done versus I'm doing one single episode every week, or I'm doing one single post each day. I'm trying to do a lot more while I'm in the zone. I'm thinking about this thing, but it can also work into our home life as well. So this could look like people who do meal prep. It can look like if I'm making something that would freeze well, I double or triple the recipe, and then I'm going to put, 1 or 2 meals into the freezer so that I have them later. It might look like I'm doing all the laundry on Monday versus I'm doing a load every single day throughout the week. It might look like it's anything where you think I do this task repetitively. This is something that I have to do all the time. Could I block out a set period of time and see how much I could get done and get ahead? That feeling of being ahead, you feel so good. And every woman knows the feeling of being behind and you're trying to catch up and it feels horrible. I mean, it
Yeah.
just sucks the life out of you. And so look for every area of your life where you think, could I get ahead here? Is it possible to batch this? The silliest way I batch my vitamins. I literally every 2 weeks get all the vitamin bottles out. I have all of these little silicone cupcake things in a little lighter, and I put all of my vitamins so that over the next 2 weeks, I don't have to get out all the vitamins and open every single bottle. They're just there. I grab them and I go. I mean, just simple ways to look for how can I just make things simpler for myself.
Yeah, I love that. And from a brain science perspective, We know that neurologically, there's no such thing as multitasking, right? We're kidding ourselves by saying, I'm a great multitasker. What we're doing is rapidly switching tasks, but that makes us very inefficient, right? So, neurologically, rapid task switching, what we think of commonly as multitasking, is not very efficient. And so, I read a study recently where it said it takes us 24 minutes to recover from a distraction.
Yes, I read that too.
Yeah, and so that is shocking,
Right?
right? To think that, oh my goodness, how much time are we wasting, especially those of us who are ADHD warriors? How much time are we wasting trying to get back on task because we were distracted by another task or trying to do multiple things at once? And so I love your idea of saying, okay, I'm going to do like tasks together, and then move on to another set of like tasks, right? So they're similar tasks that use the same cognitive skills, that use the same parts of our brain, that use the same types of energy, in the same location and environment and tools or whatever it is, to make us more efficient. Even so, we're not reducing our workload; we're just being more efficient at accomplishing our workload.
Exactly. And I think what most people don't know is my whole work is on helping us be more productive, more efficient, have more time management, be able to feel more balanced and have systems that make life run smoother. What people don't understand is the reason that I am obsessed with this and I have all these is because I have ADHD, because I am someone who can be so easily distracted. I needed these in order to function, in order to be able to accomplish the things. I had to figure out how to stop letting things take so long because of distraction, because of all the squirrel moments, because I went to do one thing and then I saw another thing. I mean, give a mouse a cookie is me all the time if I'm not careful. And so that's why I put all of these different measures in place, and all the things I talked about was literally to protect myself from me.
I love that because, I'm very transparent about my ADHD struggles. And, my focus is always on, okay, how am I making sure that my brain is healthy? How am I making sure that my omega-3 fatty acid levels are normal so that my dopamine receptors work? And, right, like I'm always focused on this, as a cognitive psychologist from a brain science perspective, right? What am I doing to maximize my brain function to compensate for my ADHD? And so I never think of it in terms of, okay, how can I change my behaviors to support my ADHD? And so I love that you pointed that out because all of our listeners who have ADHD are saying, thank goodness I have some tools to walk away with right now. Okay, this one I'm fascinated with. This is number 5. Utilize your kids' extracurricular time. What does that mean?
Yes. Okay. So I think this is about being very intentional with all of the drive time that we have. We're dropping them off at sports or whatever it might be. Make sure you're utilizing that time the best way possible. So that could mean, oh, my kids have soccer practice. This is pretty close to the grocery store. This is when I'm going to do my grocery shopping. Instead of doing your grocery shopping earlier in the day and then running up there and then being like, do I stick around? Do I try to go home so I have 15 minutes to try to get something in? So that could be one way. But it could look totally different. It could also be this is me time. I'm going to drop them off and I am going to go sit at a little cafe and have some tea and read a book. There was one time where my kids, I put all 3 of them in a swim team over the summer. It was 30 minutes from our house. And so I had the choice of, okay, I can drop them off, I can run home, and I'll have like 15 minutes, and I have to turn around, which seemed ridiculous. So I'm like, okay, well, how am I going to use this time better? So that's when I decided I was going to do my workouts. I was going to drop them off. I had my full workout clothes on, and I would go running for that period of time. And then I'd have just enough time to be able to just have a little me time before they wrapped up. And so just thinking about the time when our kids have their extracurricular, how we're using it. And I think often if we really look, we realize this is not efficient at all. This is not an effective way to be using this time. So just being more intentional about that time that you have. And I think we could take that further. I loved using the time back when I still had kids in the car as, when we were driving to things, that's when we were going to talk. I very rarely allowed music. I mean, just if we were having fun, but it was like, no, this is when we talk or we'd be listening to a book. It was quality time that we were going to use. And then when they were at their thing, that became time where I was like, how do I want to use this? Do I want to get the grocery shopping done during this time because I don't want to have to do it later? Do I want to use it for nap time in the car? Do I want to use it to go sit at a cafe and listen to a book? Or do I want to use it to get my exercise done? So just really thinking about that time and how it can serve you better.
I love that. I love that. I remember before smartphones and we could use our phone as a hotspot, they had these little things called a MiFi. And
Mhm.
so it was this little gadget that was your own personal Wi-Fi device. And so when I was getting my PhD, my kids were little. And so we would go to martial arts. And so I would sit in the, parent area with my MiFi, right? My little Wi-Fi and, work on my PhD work. And so it was because we lived 25 minutes away
Yes.
from the martial arts studio. I mean, so by the time you would get back home and drive back, martial arts is over anyway. So it was really out of necessity that, I was staying there. But then to be able to use that time was gold.
Yes. And I think we need to just make sure that we openly talk about that. I think there's been this shift where it can be easy to fall into the trap of believing you're supposed to be there at the practice, watching, cheering on. And I'm just going to say, I think that is ridiculous. No, you don't. That's why they have a coach. You do not need to be there. In fact, it's probably not even that helpful for you to be there because now they know you're there and they can kind of rely on you instead of learning their own independence and relying on their coach and all those things. So if anyone is like, oh my gosh, but all the other parents are there like watching, I would feel you just let that go. Let that guilt go and go enjoy that golden hour or whatever you want it to be.
Right. I absolutely agree. I mean, my oldest, I used to say he looked like a gazelle in martial arts. He was so beautiful in the way he could move that I loved watching. And that was very often distracting from, the work that I was working on because he was so fun to watch. But I think that you're absolutely right that children need to learn how to advocate for themselves. And they can't do that when you're always there.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so number 6 is utilize helpful gadgets. We've already talked
We
about
totally talked about
yes,
this.
the Roomba and the steam mop that vacuums at the same time. So anything that can make our lives easier and save a little bit of time, I think is
Yeah. And
wonderful.
those are exactly the things that I mentioned. So, I mean, literally, these are the things I'm talking about. Doubling dinner, freezing one, having Roombas and vacuum mops and all these different gadgets that just can save us a little bit of time. You stack those and it becomes a lot of time.
Yeah, and that led us to number 7, which was simplify everything about meals, right? And
Yes.
so I love that kids can participate in that. They can help in that. We can have leftover nights. You call them yo-yo. You're
Yes.
on your
Yeah,
own.
you're on your own. We actually always called them fend for yourself night. That's what I called them the whole time my kids. And then I heard at the very end someone say yo yo. And I was like, oh, that's so much cuter. I wish I would have called them that. So
Right.
I thought that was such a cute name. And I think if you have really little kids, you could level that up by saying it's yo yo night and we're going to do a picnic on the floor. Now it has become so special, this really beautiful tradition that the kids can be so excited about. And
Yeah.
again, you're not cooking and you just let them have the cereal. If they want the cereal, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Just let them have the cereal. And, it's some of those things where, yeah, I mean, there's all these competing ideas. We're constantly trying to do everything right in all the different ways, and they contradict themselves, even the advice. And so just coming back to if I had to do this in the simplest way possible, what would that be? And then Mitch, well, can I actually just do it the simplest way? And more often than not, it's like, well, yeah, I could. Okay. Well, then let's give it a try.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We've talked about outsourcing and delegating.
Yep.
So you say to stop grocery shopping. How in the world do we fill our pantries and fridges if we aren't grocery shopping?
So unless you love grocery shopping, I do understand that there are some mamas out there where she's like, this is my me time. Don't you dare try to take that. Okay, if you love grocery shopping, go and grocery. But for the rest of us who do not enjoy it, and it's just one more chore and a time suck, then allow for grocery delivery. I will admit it. They don't pick out as good of produce as you will. Okay, they just don't. But I am telling you that it'll be okay. It'll be okay. And between I mean, at this point, I can have my Costco delivered. I can have my groceries delivered, and anything else I can find on Amazon. So I have, there's Thrive Market. We have to be very careful with a lot of the food that we have in our house. And so I use Thrive Market so that I can get the things that actually work dietarily for what we can do. There's also meal kits that you can come. We've done all of them at this point where it's like, hey, we always would do three each of the meals that we do. Like if we're doing a HelloFresh, we would do 3 dinners because I have 3 kids. They would get to pick the dinner. They would be in charge of cooking that dinner. And it was great. That was 3 nights I wasn't cooking. And that's groceries that I'm not buying because they all come pre-packaged. So just realizing there are incredible resources out there. Use them. If you happen to have a 16-year-old, well, then let them be your grocery delivery. Hey, we buy the food, but you go and shop for it. So there are definitely options, but unless you actually love grocery shopping, let that go.
Yeah. So even my 20-year-old who lives with his fiance at college orders their groceries for pickup because they're full-time students and they work. And they're both music performance majors. So it's not just that they have to go to class, right? They are constantly in rehearsals, in practice rooms, performing, like their day is scheduled back to back to back. And so they don't have that extra hour to give. And so it might seem indulgent, but I think it's only a couple extra dollars to have it brought to your car, not delivered to your house, but brought night to your car.
And that's a great option, right? You just drive up. And here's what I will say for everyone who is feeling like it is more expensive, I can almost promise you it is not, because you're not in the store adding things that weren't on your list. Every time I go into Costco, there is always extra things that I add that I wasn't going in to plan for because I'm like, oh, I'm seeing it, I'm looking at it, and I buy it. There's a reel that I created years ago that is so funny. It's my husband. I sent him to Costco. We needed one thing. I sent him to Costco. He comes back. He has one of the boxes. And I'm like, what happened? And I just started recording, like just whatever reason, I just pulled out my phone and started recording him. And he's like, I saw these other things. And he's telling me that when he gets up to the checkout, the employee, he brings up like, yeah, I was only supposed to get one thing. And she says, that's why I do grocery delivery. And he's like, that's literally what my wife teaches. And I was like, $300. And he was supposed to buy one thing. It should have been like a $40 purchase, right? So that's another very, very real thing to think about is you're not buying those things that weren't on your list.
Yeah, I love that. And I had not even thought of that before. So the extra $2 that my college kid is spending, he's making up for by not being in person and adding just one protein bar to his cart extra.
Right. Exactly.
For sure. Okay. Last one. You say adults need recess too. And you talked a little bit about making date night happen even when it's hard and feels impossible. But why do adults need recess too?
So this would be fun to hear from your perspective, because I think you've probably studied the science behind this more than I have, although I have a little bit, but I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head. But essentially, as adults, we tend to run from thing to thing to thing, especially those of us who are maybe more type A. We're kind of overachievers. We really like feeling productive and there's just a lot to do. So we just go from thing to thing to thing every single day, over and over and over. And there is power in building in a buffer in between activities. So I used to be really bad at this. I would work right up until the minute that I knew the kids were walking in the door, or sometimes I could hear it. And so I'd pop right up, I'd come down the hall and I'd be like, hi guys, and, turn to mom moment, right? I would do this with everything though. Everything was scheduled so tight. There was no wiggle room. It was just, you're going from thing to thing to thing. And when I started building in recess, just giving myself 15 to 20 minutes, I get up and I go for a walk around the neighborhood. Sometimes I literally get up and I do a minute of squats and then I sit back down. Or I make myself actually take a lunch, where yesterday it was so wonderful. I made a little Greek salad for myself and I walked outside onto the porch and I was like, I'm going to listen to one chapter of my novel. And, it was about 20 minutes. And so I listened to that while I was eating and just sitting in the sunshine. And it was beautiful and it felt so good. And there was a really long time where I would have never given myself permission to have that recess because it was this idea that busy is a badge of honor, that the more I get done, the more valuable I am, that all of this go, go, go shows that I have worth. And it's just not true. And we burn out and we end up being not the best version of ourselves. Where when we build in these buffers, whether it's 30 minutes for lunch just for ourselves, or it's 15 minutes in between tasks to just rest for a moment, or getting up and getting outside, which is easy in the summertime. It's a little harder depending on where you live in the winter, maybe, but just making time to rest, you actually become much more productive. And I think it's for two reasons. I think one is the obvious of we are able to reset and come back. But the other is that it goes right along with that. Because I've walked away for a minute and I'm coming back, I'm amped back up. I'm excited and I'm ready to jump back in. Where when I just force myself to go, I get very mentally fatigued. And so it's so easy to give yourself permission to go check the inbox and go down that spiral, or check your phone and then go down that spiral, or whatever it might be. It's essentially an unintentional form of a recess that's not beneficial to our mental and our physical self, where when we actually schedule in the resets and those recesses, it actually makes us feel like we have more time, which sounds crazy, but you do. You feel like you have more time because you took a little bit of time to just rest.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even those people who say that they enjoy being busy all of the time, first of all, liars. But second of all, that go, go, go puts us in a state of chronic stress.
Yes.
And chronic stress means our brain is constantly in fight or flight. And so we have cortisol and adrenaline coursing through our veins. And those stress hormones shrink the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory, encoding, and retrieval. And it enlarges the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for emotions and alarm system. And so that makes us more emotional, and it makes it harder for us to focus and remember things. And when we can't focus and remember things, then we can't be efficient and we can't be productive. And when we're emotional, then our prefrontal cortex goes offline, right? So then we can't even reason clearly. So when we can take those breaks, that allows those stress hormones to dissipate, right? And then that level starts over again, right? That bucket cannot be as full, and then we can be a little bit more productive and be a little bit more efficient, and less emotional.
So good. And I read something that I has always stuck with me about, each time we're letting that cortisol spike and we're getting that fight or flight mode happening, our immune system stops because our body has to go to, oh man, I need to make sure we're safe. I'm not going to worry about immunity right now. I'm worrying about bears. And so you think about if we're allowing that every single day, and then maybe you're someone who's like, man, I get every cold, I get everything. Even just building in more rest and being able to have more calm in our lives can help us mentally. It can help us physically. I mean, it can literally ward off the flu and emotional outbursts. I mean, all of the things.
Yes, all the things. Yes, it lowers our immune system. And there's this other fascinating study that showed that parents who have more empathy have lower immunity. Like their immune system is a little weaker, right? Because of the stress of being emotionally attuned to our children's needs, right? Even though it might feel good, right? That stress will lower our immune system a little bit. Now, I am not advocating for getting rid of our empathy. We absolutely should be empathetic parents, absolutely 100%. But it's helpful to be aware of that yes, that is also stressful. So that makes it that much more important that we find ways to relieve stress in other areas, learn how to regulate our emotions, learn some mindfulness, rest, and take recess.
I love it. It's so important. It's so interesting. It's all so connected, which is what I get so excited about, right? Like
Yeah,
you and I are each thinking about how do I be a better version of myself for and especially so that I can show up for the people I love more and then help them to be better versions of themselves. And we do it from totally different ways. But then there's all these amazing connections and it's just so exciting and fun to see.
it is exciting and fun to see. So, Leah, tell our listeners how they can find more of you.
Absolutely. So, number one, balancing busy podcasts. We already know that you have great taste in podcasts. You're already on your podcast platform. So, how incredibly simple to just go and do a quick search of balancing busy and follow that one. We have all kinds of episodes that cover everything from very tangible tips of how to save time, how to deal with overwhelm and stress, but also all kinds of other topics as well. We're always trying to look for all the areas of our life, just how we simplify them. So, I would say that. And then you can go to balancingbusy.com. We have all kinds of resources, everything from my favorite 10 time saving hacks that I use that have literally stacked hours and hours and hours for me every week, along with all kinds of other resources. So, yeah, I would say start there.
I love it. All right. Leah Remillet, thank you so much for coming back for a third time. And listeners, Leah has invited me to be on her podcast, Balancing Busy. So you'll get to hear 4 conversations with us in total. And I'll actually put links to the prior episodes with you in the show notes of this episode so that listeners, if you weren't around 2 years ago, it'll make it easy for you to find those and find her. Thank you so much for being with us today. Really loved spending another hour and 15 minutes with you. And our episodes always run long with you because the conversations are so amazing. I know what to do. Okay, listeners, thank you for being with us today. If you like our show, we would love it if you would leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. If you would like to see our faces, you can watch these episodes on YouTube at The Brainy Moms. Come find us on Instagram and TikTok at The Brainy Moms as well. I hope you feel a little bit smarter after this episode. We'll catch you next time.